I like the little countdown, by the way.
What's up? Yeah, it's like three, two, one, go.
Yeah,
We're here.
yeah. Hey, everyone. Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is a referral back to the other episode. Have you looked at the other episode or seen if anybody's looked at the other episode at all? The most recent episode we did? Because a
Um,
couple of people have told me that they listened to it, which I rarely ever actually hear people tell me that they listened to it.
yes, actually. So, are you referring to the episode about addiction that we try and like habits, bad habits, and things like that? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that one got a little bit higher record. Like it's already towards the top of our how many people have listened to our episode. Even though I thought that one was a crazy one for us, but
Yeah, like,
I've listened.
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I've had a few people tell me about it, and it's decent feedback. I think a lot of addiction is really just about life, and I think that's how you and I break things down really well. Is we break it down super simple, like just for our day to day lives, rather than bringing too much science and whatnot into it. Even though you are more scientific, but I felt good about it. But yeah, the views were up, and that's out on YouTube and Spotify, Amazon, and Apple, and all that stuff. So it's actually out there. So that's probably helping too.
Yeah, I was just curious. I was going to ask you before we started, but then I was like, I'll just ask you when we start. Because then if people want to watch it, they can remember to watch it, basically.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's cool to watch those analytics. We've been doing better. So thanks everyone for listening. And it's kind of
Actually,
cool.
getting feedback, which is crazy. I'm not used to hearing feedback very much or regularly.
Yeah. Hey, did you know that I actually started something? It's a secret though. I haven't even told you.
Uh huh.
So we have a secret of FitQuest podcast TikTok account. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think that's great.
and yeah, and so I told you I got that clips thing
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, and
Ooh, good
so you should.
idea.
So it's only clips and
Uh,
nothing else. And
yeah.
so yeah, you should check it out. By the way, I'm telling you this now, and then also the audience because no one knows because I've just been messing with it. Because those Opus clips, and just to let everyone know if you go check it out, like it just shows glimpses of our podcast,
Uh-huh.
and so it's
So you
cool
get
and
an
it's the
idea
easiest
for
way.
the vibe or the energy of that podcast or like how we talk about things, but you're not going to get very much information, honestly.
Exactly. Where you could go to the regular podcast places or YouTube too. I'm putting out at least the videos on YouTube and then the audio is on all podcast places.
Yeah. So today's basically like a maintenance or like a update podcast, right? You would say. So that's
Yep.
what also made me think about bringing that up because I was thinking about our numbers, and then also I wanted to talk about our FitQuest today.
Okay.
And we didn't get to talk about our FitQuest on the last podcast because we just, without even trying, I feel like we went deep in the woods in the last podcast.
Yeah, yeah, it was an intense one, and we've actually only had one podcast in the past 4 weeks too, because so we took a couple weeks off there also. So there's a lot, there's like a lot to catch up on. I know I have a lot to say about my current fit quest, and what were we going to start off with though?
Oh gosh.
Chess.
Yeah.
You've been beating me in chess. So, like, we had that episode a while back that you talked about chess, and you were like, "Hey, let's play chess." And then 2 games into it, you were like, "Oh yeah, I used to coach people in chess," and I was like, "Oh yeah." But anyway, you're a good chess player.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not like masters level or anything like that. Like I could win a tournament probably at a local level or something like that if I like committed to it, you know?
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I like doing chess and kind of a side quest to my fit quest for my brain health, honestly,
Okay.
because it's a it's a game that I can gauge my mental abilities with and use as an indicator of my mental abilities, but it feels more objective. Like if I meditate, for example, and I think about how I'm feeling and where I'm feeling things, which is useful too. Like a body scan type of thing, or like a thought. There's thought meditations where you can label your thoughts, stuff like that. But when I do chess, I know when I'm feeling aggressive more than normal, for example, if I'm playing more aggressively. So it mirrors a little bit of my psyche more. And I played it enough times, thousands of times. And so like I know what a normal game feels like. So it's like you can go and spar basically. If you think of it like fighting, maybe that will make most sense. So if somebody goes and spars and they're like, "Oh man, something feels weird today," and I've sparred 1,000 times, you know something's up, even just in your regular sparring match. And that's
Oh,
that's
that's
I
really
like chess for
interesting.
that. Yeah,
Okay, cool. I could see that. I haven't put very many reps in, so that just gave me this idea that I just need to start probably challenging more people on that app because right now I'm only playing with you, and
yeah.
so we play like one game a week. So I'm really not getting very many reps in. So I probably should go play a bunch of games against more people.
I
And
really
I
think I really think it would be helpful. Yeah, I think online chess, in terms of how it's been helping people be better players and play more often and produce. Chess.com makes a lot of money. They put on like these big tournaments and everything, these world chess tournaments, and sponsor them and all that, and people, and they have lessons, and like chess is still, it's kind of nuts. I feel like chess has gotten more popular as I've gotten older. And I thought it was going to be one of those things that would die out when I was a young kid. Like I was that weird nerdy kid playing chess, but I feel like it's gotten more popular, or at
yeah,
least I'm
chess. Well,
surrounded
chess.
by people who like chess. Either that, or I found my tribe.
Well, it's probably a little bit of both. You're
Right?
gonna have a bubble somewhere, as aware as we are, right? We're gonna have some kind of bubble. But I think that obviously having cell phones is super huge for the chess community. But also, when if you're trying to find a game online, or there are all these new games, but then there's like the classics you can go back to. And I
Yeah,
feel
and
like that.
chess goes really well into online play. Like it's real simple in terms of just you move, I move, you move, I move. And it reminds me. I used to do this is how nerdy I was. I would do like mail-in games against family members and friends. So you send your move via snail mail, and
That's
then
awesome.
they send their move back, and then send the move, and then send the move back, and you just wait for the mail. You're so excited to get the mail. We're like the next move on the chessboard, and you keep the chessboard set up at home to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really cool. That's a great idea for now, even. I
it's
love
fun.
that.
It's fun. I guess I could do it now. I guess I could do it now. We didn't have a very good mailing habit of checking our mail before, but now we actually do with kids and everything. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, I haven't experienced those things that you've experienced in chess yet, but it has one thing I do feel like I'm getting a little bit better, but I do, and I'm just seeing more things. And so I think just watching you play is good, but I do need to go out there and play a bunch. And I think that's like just like the lesson like in fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why like when you get stuck on one thing, you learn lessons, but most of those lessons often go towards other things in life. And with chess, like I used to play maybe 10 or 15 years ago a lot, but I feel like I never thought about it maybe. And
Yeah.
now everything I go into a game and I think about it, and I try and learn at least from what I'm doing. But also at the beginning, there's just a lot of experimentation. So
It's funny.
while
It makes me think. Sorry, it makes me think of a lot of friends or people I know who I think would be well served, like checking out the online chess community that used to play when they were younger, but haven't played anytime recently, but liked to play when they were younger. And just a little tactic for you: I wouldn't suggest playing a lot of like playing multiple games at once, if that makes sense. So not too many games at once, because you don't want to spread your brain too much with the 3 games going at a time. And when I say that, I mean like those games have 6 days or 4 days till you make a move. So you give your brain some time to look at the board and be like, this is the game against blah blah blah. This is the game against blah blah blah, and you can separate them in your mind.
yeah,
Because if you can't separate them in your mind, you're just going to play with the same theme in every game, and most games are going to be different than each other.
Now, are a lot of chess players playing from a rule book, like a playbook? That is there a lot of different strategies, I'm guessing, in chess that people use that are, say, written out? So, like, there's 20 different strategies that you can go and learn when I'm trying to learn chess, like things like that.
Yeah, I would say there's the basics are pretty cut and dry. I think a lot of people don't even get to the fundamentals, honestly. And that's why, like, when people say I'm like a really good chess player, like I've gotten the fundamentals pretty good, pretty well. I've gotten most of the fundamentals down. I still don't feel like I have all the fundamentals down, honestly. And those are not debated very much. But then there's chess openings, there's end game strategies, there's valuation of pieces based on where they are in the board and the time of the game. And that's
Yeah.
more advanced stuff that gets taught early with the basics. But I think the basics are undervalued, I think, with most people who play chess. By
And that's just normal behavior, though, right? If
Yep, just
you
like strength
like,
training fundamentals, like the basics are undervalued, basically.
because you can see somebody get super strong and super muscular maybe because they're 20 years old, and but they've only been lifting for a year, and they
Hmm.
get into this certain shape, and then from outside, like if you're not in the lifting community, you might think something like, oh, they know what they're doing, and but really they know one way of doing it, and
Right.
they haven't really experienced it for a long time. So I could be playing you at chess and saying, "Oh, you're so good at chess because you're making this like triangle thing,"
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like,
Structure of my
you
pawns looks immaculate. Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I see him like doing this," and then, but really, you're saying like, I've only done so many fundamentals, so in the chess community. Like you might be maybe more of a beginner, intermediate, or like intermediate to pro. I don't really know. But
I'm intermediate on the regular. Sometimes I can get like edging towards advanced. But
okay, okay,
I,
yeah.
with two kids and erratic sleep patterns, and yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. It's not that much of a priority, honestly.
Okay,
But
all
I
right,
like it as
cool.
an indicator, especially right now. I like it as like a mental energy indicator, I would say.
And so that's a good way. You're using that to figure out what you're doing in life. And I think that's a good step. And that's part of your fit quest is adding these little things into your life that, you're just going to go. We always talk about that with working. Like you could go to the gym and just do simple machines all the time, or you can change it up, right? And you can go and just do outdoor stuff, or just do calisthenics, or just do heavy lifting. And if you're always changing, then that kind of keeps you on your toes. It's always good for the body. You can get into the science of that, but really, I mean, for me, it's all about just changing my mind up a little bit because after a few months, you get into these little holes or whatever, and then you have to change it, and that's just the pattern of life.
Yeah, yeah, and I like chess because I see a lot of analogies to life. Honestly, I could do a whole podcast on chess and the analogies I see with strength training. I could do. I actually thought about how people talk about doing niches for your marketing, right? Like niching down really, really specific. I've thought multiple times about doing like chess strength training, like strength training for chess geeks, basically,
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
naming all my exercises different chess names, and yeah, yeah,
That
it's
could be fun. If once you have a set core business, why not try all these little niche things going on? Because you could just use it as just what is it called, like a lead magnet or something out there. You could just
mhm.
put it out there and be like, "This is my chess package," and it's just all
The whole
related
chess
to that.
theme, everything. Yeah, yeah, I could totally do that. I just haven't pulled that trigger. I guess someone you can try and take the idea. Go ahead, but I'll play you in a game of chess for the rights to the idea if you do take the idea. Winner
Oh,
take
I
all.
like it.
Yeah, but yeah, FitQuest though overall right now, I guess I'll just continue FitQuest wise, but I'll go to the strength training stuff now,
Okay, let's
and
do
then
it.
And
Let's
then
hear it.
so FitQuest overall right now, I would say is I've actually been playing more chess because I've been trying to not get sick, and my activity level has been high just because of Halloween, and we had that Halloween party recently, and trick or treating, going out with kids, festivities, going different places, being outside before it gets too darn cold, basically.
Yeah.
So I've been going pretty often and getting lots of steps. So I've been trying to be lazy this past week or two, I would say, because it's really hard to be lazy right now. So
Yeah.
chess has helped with that because that'll make me actually and focus for a little bit without moving. So if you want to be lazy and not move around, but I'm still doing my strength training twice a week. I'm trying to incorporate a lot of balance in my strength training right now. So for knee stability, I moved my sled over to the shed outside. So I've been doing a lot more reverse sled walks and
Okay.
like knees over toes, reverse sled walk stuff.
Okay.
And then I've been wanting to work out. Like I've been craving working out and I've been enjoying my workouts, but I'm pretty sure I don't need to push it too much. And the HRV thing keeps on showing me like, you better watch out. Don't go too crazy. You're really pushing it.
It's
And I
awesome to have that piece of technology, right? That you can see every day and give you a little bit of feedback.
yes and no because I still feel like it could be astrology, honestly. I was still torn, but like I've been doing pretty good with dodging bullets. I think right now at a time when there's a lot of bullets, and I've been listening to it more. So I'm trying to continue to do that. This is my little experiment with that, I would say.
Yeah, it's just another one of those one percenters you add, and it's like sometimes you add something that gives you like 2%,
Yeah,
and then you notice it a little bit more.
yeah. So the verdict is still out. The verdict is still
Okay.
out on that, but I'm trying to listen to it with my training, and I am monitoring my steps more, and I'm trying to when I'm walking right now, I'm really trying to use the arches of my feet, and my knee feels a lot better when I do that. But because I'm doing that, my shins, my calves are getting tight. So I'm trying to make sure I take care of them in my strength programs, and I'm trying to do a little bit more mobility work with my shins and my calves as well, which is good for my Achilles anyhow, honestly.
Okay. All right. So you're definitely in like a chill mode, I would say, right now.
Yeah, I'm in like
And
a chill slash. It's weird because I hurt my knee a little while ago. Everything feels like a progression, even though it's not super hard. So it's like
yes.
the benefit of getting injured a little bit, because I'm like, oh, I'm getting better at this now. My knee feels better at this now. I'm feeling better, but I'm not going too hard. I'm just like getting a little bit better and continuing. Yeah.
All right. All right, man. I like that a lot. So I would love to see the HRV data a year from now, or maybe whenever your sleep, hopefully it does, knock on wood, starts regulating from Ari and your kids.
Right.
I would love to see the data like 3 months into good sleep for you and see how that changes, and then see how much you can crush your workouts like during that time period. And I really like that because we talk a lot about like the seasonal things, and I like to work out like this time of the year, which I'll get into soon, is my FitQuest where I like to lift a little heavier, and I think that is one part of it. Like, so that's like your environmental part, and that's a very personal part for you. And then you can use the real data. So like the science, like the Andrew Huberman stuff, like where you're like, okay, I am doing XYZ because the science says it, and I'm going to fit it in. And then you need to really make that work into your life. And sometimes you have to bend that that data or whatever, not the data itself, but like the learnings from that study or whatever, and
Mhm.
put it into your life for you. And so that's why I think that's cool. You're tracking the HRV.
Yeah. Yeah. As people listen to our podcast more, I think they'll notice our little self experiments more and more. And I just got, especially, I think we're getting better about talking about them too, because I think there's a lot of things to do that I don't always talk about. And in a way, I don't really want to talk about them until I'm like close to the end of the experiment,
Right.
because it's hard sometimes to finish an experiment, right?
Okay.
Something's
I,
come
I,
up and it's
I
just, that's gone to shit. Never mind.
True. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. But that, how often does that happen? I think that happens a lot, and I think a part of an experiment is just figuring out what to experiment on.
Mm.
And so I had that similar thought because part of my Fit Quest today, this is so great. So part of my Fit Quest today was about a month ago. I was talking about this experiment that I want to do. Like I want to do an official experiment, like starting next year, and I wanted to have it to do it outside in the cold and all that kind of stuff, right? So what and then I was like, man, I'm gonna have to talk about right here on the podcast, like why I'm not gonna do that. And
Mm.
then I started thinking about this same thing. I was like,
Uh-huh.
why do I always put in the public my experiments, or at least not in the public, really just talking to you, Mike, and then the public gets to listen to it. And that's because of the fact that you need to test out an experiment. You need to experiment on the experiment before you know what to do.
Yeah.
And
A pilot study. A lot of these are pilot studies, right?
right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You just you have to like dip your toes a little bit and
Yeah,
try it.
see if it's
And
worthwhile. See if you get a little bit of feedback in the direction that you're expecting to get feedback, or you get any. A lot of it's pretty much just see if you can get some insights from it that you were either expecting or that. What's the word? That empower further investigation. That glean. That make it so you want to go further with it. Right.
right, right. Now, and you can optimize it and you can science it. And I talked about this on one of my posts about like transition time, where it's really that downtime between and what I'm now realizing between these experiments is this transition time that you should focus on more than the other time. But I love the experimentation of figuring out what I'm going to do next, even
Mm-hmm.
though scientifically, like maybe 6 weeks of experimentation to figure out my next like 12-week workout cycle is not the best thing for me to do. But I can get through a 6 week period just knowing my body and whatnot and just working out and still doing good, but maybe not progressing as much as being in a program. But for me, it's fun to do all these tests and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a part of that Fit Quest that I'm just realizing is that like you have to follow all the studies and everything like that, but you have to do what you want to do too. And you have to do both. You have to, and one of the things I want to talk about today as part of my Fit Quest was, so somebody asked me about, they called it the 30-30-30 rule.
Yeah.
And then when I Googled it, there was a ton of these 30-30-30 rules.
Yeah, for different categories.
And have we talked about this before? A guy named Gary Brecka. So okay,
I've
so
heard of him. I don't think we've talked about him though.
okay, you probably have heard of him. So I don't know the whole story, but basically in the 4 hour work week from Tim Ferriss, it was mentioned to do this like this 30-30-30 thing. And Gary Brecka, he's like just a fitness guy, he coined it a little bit. And basically it says you should have 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking, and then do 30 minutes of zone 2. What you got there? Yep,
The four
boom.
hour work week.
Yep,
I
exactly.
bet
So
you it was in the four. That sounds like it was in the 4 hour body though. Honestly.
I think it was I think it was in that one, at least that's what I read, but I don't want to, I mean, I'm not claiming it as 100% or anything, but
Okay. Correct. All right. All right. All right. So
the whole thing is that's what the lady asked me. She's like, what do you think about that? My mom is about to do this. What do you think? And I was like, oh, this would be perfect for Mike and I to talk about. And I'll give you my first thoughts on it,
Yeah.
and I'll let you think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much where I was like, yes, that is. I was like, sure, that's a great idea. But the claim is like that it sheds body fat. Right? And then I had to talk that out a little bit with her. And really all it is a marketing thing. At the end of the day, everything you see online is just a little bit exaggerated to get an emotional response from you, and you need to 1000% realize that. Okay, so anybody online is going to claim that their idea is the best or the first or the greatest, or you're going to burn all your body fat in 2 weeks guaranteed. And one day we should just have a whole episode on that. But I had to, because pretty much I had to explain all this to her. And at the end of the day, I was like, actually, it's a really good idea, because like the science behind it that they talk about is that if you have protein right at the beginning of the day, then your cortisol levels won't spike, and therefore your sugar levels won't and then so basically just having that protein instead of what do most people have in the morning? Coffee causes your cortisol to spike. And then
Coffee, cereal bar, cereal, oatmeal with processed carbohydrates, basically things that make their sugar spike.
And so when your body is in that position, it's harder for it to work properly and burn all the fat and everything. And there's claims
unless you're going to be active, really active right after.
There's claims like all sorts of different ways, right? That'll say the science behind it. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but that's the point of this, right?
So tell me it again one more time. It's 30, 30. What's the 30, 30, 30 stand for again?
30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up, followed by 30 minutes of zone 2 cardio.
Followed by 30 minutes of zone 2. Those things by themselves are useful strategies, right?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. And then it's just in a way, okay, I'm going to be like devil's advocate for marketing. In a way, marketing and sales is playing on our innate brain function in terms of what gets our attention, right? And you're not going to remember to do something if it doesn't get your attention. So you need this is a mnemonic device, you would say, right? To help you, the 30, 30, 30. So you get that nice little rhythm with it. 30, 30, 30. It's 3 the same numbers. It's all chunked together for your brain to easily remember it, right?
Right.
And I think that's useful to have things chunked together so you can remember it too. I would say, like that.
Yeah, so that it's a great thing, and that's the point of there's that first thing that you see is the claim, and you have to get past the claim and figure out why does it actually work, because then there's all these testimonials that say on any page you'll read 1,000 testimonials that'll say, okay, it 100% works, it works, and those are all true, right? And that's because you can always find 1,000 people to get affected buy a product in a good way like that. That's just how the world works. It's
and they're not randomly selected like they would be in a good study either.
Yeah, exactly.
They're actually purposefully selected.
Right. And so this is how we're filtering all content. Then you actually go down to the 30, 30, 30. And I think that's the point that you were getting to. Once you get to 30, 30, 30, okay, if you wake up in the morning and you have 30 grams of protein, then you're automatically getting 30 grams of protein more than you normally would. Right. So that's just, and that what do most people need in life is 30 grams more protein. And that's just an arbitrary number, but it's 30, 30, 30. Like you said, you have to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, okay, within 30 minutes of waking. So it's easier to make a habit right when you wake up. And
you that's have a why routine when you wake up. So anything at the end of that routine, you can anchor onto and create a new habit with. It's just a lot of people tend to squeeze as many things as possible in the morning before they have to run out to work just in time to get there at the time they need to.
And that's probably causing their stress levels to ignite, which is going to backfire all the stuff that they just worked on. True. Okay, so now we're at, what are we at now? Okay, now the 30 minutes. So now you have a 30-minute of zone 2.
Right.
So it doesn't
A
matter.
walk, a brisk walk.
It doesn't matter if you're in zone 2, it doesn't matter if you're walking. It's just a walk. It's 30 minutes of cardio. You good there?
Yeah, I dropped my meditation balls.
Oh. And then 30 minutes, and then you get 30 minutes of cardio in, right? And now, if you do that, say you do that every day, listen,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. Those things, if you do every day, are going to help you no matter what. And
Yeah,
each one, if you do two of those three things, and the third thing within 30 minutes, all that is creating that habit. And then if you add those three together, it's absolutely going to work. But it's not the magic pill, but it's going to work until it doesn't work, right?
yeah. It's a morning ritual, basically. And morning rituals have their place, I would say, with certain types of people and certain kinds of lifestyles. Some
Right.
people
Like,
can
so
have elaborate morning rituals, and some people it's not gonna. That's not a thing that they want to be doing. They want to get up and go, basically.
same thing with fasted cardio, right? You can argue all the sciences and stuff behind it, but if you wake up every morning and you walk for it's gonna be beneficial. And then there's gonna be arguments like what's gonna be more beneficial, what's gonna be less beneficial, or
Yeah.
whatever. If you eat before, if you eat
Morning
after.
rituals sell really well. I think. I think morning rituals must sell really well, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the point. Yeah, and I've been thinking about that a lot. I was like, why don't I just make up one of these things?
Okay, so one of the most productive times I've had, and like I know if, like if in case of emergency break glass strategy I have that I
Okay.
don't. It's like I could use it all the time, but for some reason I don't really because it shifts. That I don't update it as regularly as I could to make life smoother. Maybe.
Right.
But one of the things I do in emergency situations where life is freaking crazy and really busy is I'll write out like the perfect week, and then like with the regular things that happen, and then in those time breaks that are more variable, what I would do in them versus what I react because you get reactionary in those time
Hmm.
breaks. So I actually just like plot out like, okay, this is the time break. On Mondays I focus on this. On Wednesdays I focus on this. On Fridays I focus on this. In those time breaks instead of just reacting, basically. And then I have a perfect day as well, and I write out what a perfect day would look like in general. And then I copy those into my phone, I print them out. I like have all these little places where I can look at it and I try to like adhere to that.
Right.
And then I get so much done. But as like time goes on and the seasons change, those perfect days and perfect weeks as I plan them don't work. And I need to update it and I don't. Maybe I
Right.
will talking about that. But it can be really like whenever you do that, it, I imagine it's really useful for a lot of people, right?
Right.
When you get a good routine going and it's doing the things that you want to do in that routine and you ritualize it, right?
Yep.
That's like the end goal. I feel like one day I'll have that on the regular. We'll see.
There is no end goal, Mike. It's
I know.
always going to change.
This is the
One
end
day
game.
you're going to get there one day and then you're going to have to change it, all right? That's just how it's
Oh,
going to be.
I know.
So, my fit quest
Yeah,
for
coming back to
myself. Yes, but okay. So I took those 6 weeks of experimentation, and and so that was for me kind of like a more stressful time. There was things going on, and now
yeah,
some of the things you were just saying is making sense. I think I landed on my first on my 8 week program for working out. So I just finished my first 7 days of training. I'm now tracking my blood pressure, body weight, body fat, and then I made my checklist that I haven't been doing like 8 weeks, and so life's kind of been a little crazy, right? So this past week though, I crushed it for the first week and 6 weeks
yeah,
or so.
yeah.
And I had to go back on like I was saying a little earlier, I had to go back on my word on some of my specifics, which I was testing over the past 6 weeks.
Right,
One
your
of the
pilot study.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Sorry.
Your pilot study.
My pilot study. Sorry. Yep. Okay. And then so I did the outside stuff. And so the issue, I was able to do one day this week of outside, but the issue with that is not me. It's realizing that young Charlie doesn't want to go outside when it's 25 degrees outside.
What? Why not?
Oh, crazy, right?
Unless he's
So
in like a marshmallow puff suit, maybe.
yeah, and it's been so that was something that I should have calculated before, but for some reason I didn't.
Mhm.
And so I've pretty much moved my workouts inside with potential to be outside, if I can.
What time does
Um,
up?
he varies, let's just say 6 a.m. as an average.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I wake up at 5:04 a.m. every day, man. So
No, but still, like to get a full workout in, you're gonna you like how long after you wake up can you get started with your workout at the earliest, like 5:20, right?
oh no. Me? No.
Yeah,
I 5:45 or 6.
yeah.
I
See,
have too many occurrences of trying to work out within 30 minutes of waking up that I like hurt my back.
yeah, yeah. Like you need to
And
get going and move in and get everything together, and yeah,
my warm up at 5:30 needs to be 30 minutes long compared to 10 minutes long. If I do it, and so that's
Mhm.
something that I think about a lot. And so I pretty much in the morning I do meditate before everyone wakes up. I do meditation. I let the dog out. I do stretching. Those are like some of my morning things I do before Charlie gets up or before my wife gets up or the
Right,
other kid, but
exactly.
she sleeps in.
Yeah, so you got to work out inside because he's gonna be awake by the time you can get going with the workout, and you don't need to
Yeah,
be waking up much earlier than 5 o'clock. I think five
right.
oh four is good.
And so the outdoor stuff that I am able to do, I'm actually doing racing. I'm racing him on the bike. So it's about a 50-yard sprint, and it's out into the road and back, and he's getting fast. And I've been doing on two days. I'm doing five of those sprints, followed by five fast carries with my 35-pound sandbags. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like racing Charlie and like trying to run really fast and trying to like stand up tall and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I am combining outdoors, but I have to like make it fun too for him because to get him outside even on a 45-degree day, I don't know. He's not liking the cold. I'm trying to make him like the cold though.
It's funny. Xena is all about going out in the cold, and Ari's much more ambivalent about it. The nice thing is I can use Xena as peer pressure a lot for Ari. Basically,
Yeah,
that helps. I would say. I
when
think
they're
that's
together, it definitely helps.
yeah, exactly. And since we homeschool, they're together pretty often. So it's kind of nuts because that's one of the things I didn't think about with homeschooling is how much they would be interacting with each other versus they're interacting with other kids when they're at school versus at home they're interacting with each other as much and like how much Xena rubs off on Ari. And I knew she would, but like I think it's accelerated compared to typical peers probably in some
Do
way.
you think? No, I agree with that because so one thing I've noticed with my daughter
Mm,
for 3, really 4 years, it was Amber and I and her, right?
mm,
And so it was like 2-on-1 all the time. She was getting a lot of attention.
mm,
Now the second kid, uh, she is being, and then the first kid was more reluctant to learn a lot of things with us, right?
mm.
Now with the second kid, so Adeline is like teaching him
Right,
more, and he from a young age has been like learning things that Adeline, like learning something that Adeline might have learned at like 4, he's learning at 2. And it's because of her and because of their close bond. And you don't
right,
think about, and like even if it's only 3 years, but three-year old to 6-year old is a huge difference.
right,
And I see a complete difference in the two kids and how they were raised just due to the fact that they were siblings.
right. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Because
Yeah, I like to think of that.
if you put them into like preschool or daycare, even at 3 or 4 years old, they're usually right. So now sometimes they're with an age group, but usually you put a 3-year-old in, they're going to be with 3-year-olds. Put a four
Right.
year old in. And so that if it was, a few 3-year-olds and a few 6-year-olds, I wonder how they would interact together, and how each kid would mature, because I think it's a completely different dynamic.
So Montessori actually does that. Back to chess coaching. This chess coaching I really loved doing was actually with the Montessori kids, and they're more like mixed ages with their classes and groupings. And
Okay.
it's really interesting if you look into Montessori and stages of development and whatnot that he wrote about. Was it he or she? I don't remember, honestly. But it's it's fun to interact with them playing chess compared to like kids in a typical school, because kids in a typical school will sit down and be ready for the teacher to give them a lesson, for example. But in like a Montessori school where the kids are mixed around and the curriculum is more interactive between the different age groups, a lot of the kids are used to teaching each other, and the teacher just gives a topic out there or gives some ideas out there, and then you let them go wild with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I love that.
yeah, but like teaching chess, you would think you would have to be like, okay, kids, here's the board. These are what the pieces do, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to come, and everybody's going to sit at their table, and I'm going to come around and check on them and all that kind of stuff. But in those classes, we do a little bit of lecture at the beginning just to give them an idea of what's going on. But then it's much more like go out into the wild and figure
Right.
this out. And I just float it. You float more as a teacher. It's interesting.
And then
Yeah.
the older ones will show the younger ones and whatnot.
Yeah, and you find different. You look. I at least one of my strategies was looking at the kids who were like looked at for guidance, like trying to find the kids who are the guidance counselors for the other kids.
Right.
You know, and the ones who got the whose eyes who got the most eyes on them when they were doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are like your champions, and you use those champions as examples for how to do things and celebrate it. And then the other kids, like, oh, did you see what Ricky did? Blah blah blah. I should try that. Next time I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, dude, that's a good. I like it, man. That's very interesting, and it's good to know these things as parents, I think.
Yeah, and especially when you're trying to plan your morning workout.
All
So
right. All right.
that's your plan right now. I like the data. I like how you're getting the blood pressure, and I like how you're keeping up with the high intensity stuff too. I feel like that's one of those things that recently became like a staple, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I had to add in more high intensity stuff through, because, of my journey of going very low intensity for a few years. I felt like I was heavier, just in general. And a couple things that I'm noticing about that is that and maybe it's due to stress. I watched that podcast with that Kapolsky guy, and I've been thinking a lot about stress. And even though when I was working out in that low stress time, I was putting so much other stress on my body, right? And and I think, and I wasn't getting a whole lot of. Right now, I'm very low stress in life. Now that I haven't figured out this parenting thing at all, but I've just figured out how to manage my stress better. Um, but now that my weight is, keeping data is great too. My weight is 30 pounds less than it was a year ago today. My body fat is like 10% less than it was a year ago today. So
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of it has to do with the stress I'm not working on a regular job. And so like I'm able to work out all the time. And I know most people don't have that. And I'm really considering stress being one of the biggest factors,
Dude, for sure.
and just how you manage stress really, and how much stress you're actually having in jobs and in commutes and things like that. And I think that our working out you need to really fit that into your life compared to the amount of stress. And you always talk about it in case of load and everything. And I love that analogy.
Like, how
And
much
so,
load are you carrying on the regular?
r-
Like,
r-
right now, if we tried to visualize it in terms of a weighted vest, right? You literally were carrying 30 more pounds, right?
right.
Every day around like a weighted vest, right? And
Yeah.
then how many other more mental pounds in addition to that, right? And then expecting yourself to be able to perform as well as maybe you do right now.
Yep.
So
So,
that's a lot.
and now that I have my stress managed more, I'm able to add in that high intensity. And it's almost like that high intensity work, it wears me out. Like those 5 sprints and those 5 carries, it's less than 15 minutes of work. It's 10 minutes, but that's I'm going as high intensity as I can, and that stresses me out. But I feel it working, and I feel the only reason it works really well, and in ways too, that like I was getting injured a lot when I was and when I was commuting, and now, holy knock on wood, I shouldn't even be talking about this, but I've been getting injured a lot less, and I feel better after doing high intensity stuff. I even added in a little like hex bar deadlift work, and I felt great on those. I felt strong, and I also wasn't super sore afterward. So I'm really having this epiphany with stress and how important it is to change your life as much as you can to minimize stress so that you can then put in stress that you want into your life that actually optimizes your life instead of that stress, taken away from your life.
Yeah. I think that's really important. That's one of the reasons, one of the big reasons why that's like one of our four pillars, I would
Yeah.
say, with our clients. The whole resting, digesting, moving, and grooving. Grooving
Yeah.
is the
Explain that.
positive spin on stress, basically.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to get people to adopt new behaviors, it's usually more likely to happen if you give it a positive spin versus a negative spin. Like, it's easier to run towards something you want than it is to sustainably run from something you don't want. Like,
Right.
you can run from something you don't want like quickly, but after a while it just becomes depressing.
Right.
But you can run
Right.
sustainably towards something you want a lot more. So resting is getting enough sleep, but a lot of people turn that into going to bed early, which is more like a you have to stop, which is more of a negative kind of behavior pattern. And
Like
you
a
want to keep
negative thought to it.
yeah, like a negative framing of it. Sorry, negative framing of it, and then digesting your moving and then grooving. So that positive spin on, but like grooving means a lack of negative emotion, at least contextually, I would say. And if people focused on grooving a lot more, I think we'd be yeah in a lot better place. And it's not easy though. Like, some people are in situations that's hard to focus on grooving because you get in these loops, and sometimes you got to like slow the loop before you can reverse the loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what our last episode was about.
Yeah, and being able to be aware of those loops that you get into is super important. And now that I am in this opportunity to think about stress more, I think about it a lot with my, oh, you know what? I just realized, when do you need to roll out?
In like 10 minutes, I would say. About 10 more
Okay,
minutes.
cool. All right, cool. Okay. So one thing that I was realizing with this stress thing is that in my family circle, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how can I make my kids less stressful and my wife less stressful? Because I'm in the like awesome opportunity to that yes, my life has been minimized in stress, and I feel like I've been minimizing my family's life stress. And now I've made that a priority over the past few weeks, and just changing my systems up a little bit to know that I am in this opportunity to what happens if when I worked for 40 or 50 hours a week? Like what kind of stress was on my mind and all that kind of stuff. And so really for me, I'm not one person, I'm part of a family. And so my stress is everything, is
There.
everybody.
Yeah.
And so it's something I've been leaning into more. And I've been really building my life around this concept. And I didn't really think about it until this past month.
Mm.
But I'm going to lean into it more on a relationship standpoint, I think, and like a family unit standpoint, and then check in over the next few weeks or months on that, because I think that is going to be something that's going to be able to just amplify our family even more. It's all about those 1%, right? I'm
Yeah.
not saying some people think of it's like it's a negative thing, but I always think of it just adding that extra 1%, like always trying to make it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and you're either growing or you're degrading. I don't think there's a lot of middle ground for people. Time doesn't stop. So you can go in one direction or you can go in the other direction, and we're kind of already degrading no matter what we do. So I feel like if we can squeeze as much juice out of it, you got to do things like that. So that's good. That's useful. Do you see Arnold Schwarzenegger's book Be Useful, by the way?
No, is it a new release?
Yes, it's a good one. It's a good one. I won't go too deep in that because I feel like that's a good place to stop, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. This
So
was a
stay
good
tuned
episode.
next time. What were you saying?
I said this was a good episode, man. Let's keep it up and I'll catch you guys later.
Yep. Peace out.
Peace.